Hey there, everyone, and thank you so much for attending tonight's event. My name is Josh, and I am an event planner here with the Orange County Library System. I want to welcome and thank you all for taking some time out of your evening for our virtual museum tour with the Polasek Museum. We're going to be talking about the new exhibit that is coming up. To the museum, and we're going to be talking to a couple of experts tonight. Um, but before we get started, I just want to point you into a couple directions. So the comments, if you would like to ask a question to any of our presenters, feel free to post those in the Facebook or YouTube comments. We will be looking out for those throughout the presentation, and we'll be asking them towards the end. Tonight's presentation should be 30 to 40 minutes just to give us a basic overview. So please get those questions in as you are receiving them. But without any further ado, I'd like to introduce you to our presenters this evening. First up, we have Emily from the Polasek Museum. Hey, Emily, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Uh, Great. Thank you so much for working with us today and bringing us this presentation. Emily, you're the chief curator at the museum, correct?
Correct.
Great, great. And if anyone hasn't gone out, where can we find you all here in town? Should we,
So we're in Winter Park. If you want to visit the museum, which you all should, check us out on our Facebook, our Instagram. Our website is www.polasek.org. And right now, as Josh said, we're going to talk about our current exhibit. It's Impressions of Life, Joza Uprka, who is a Czech artist.
Great, and we have the expert in the tonight, George Trost here, who will be sharing more information with us. So I'd like to welcome on George. Hey
Yeah,
there, how
thank
you doing
you.
tonight?
I'm doing great, and I think not as good as you guys because any program's got to start with a weather report. So I am in the Chicagoland area, and we have about 8 inches of snow. So enjoy your Orange County sunshine or warm weather. So, but
Yeah,
we'll get through it. We'll get through it.
we're at a chilly 81 tonight, so
Ooh, yeah,
suffering through it, but we'll
yeah.
make it. Don't worry about us, George. um, but I'll let you all get to it. I'll be here in the background. If anyone has any questions for myself or anything about the event tonight, like I said, please post those in the comments, and we will ask them towards the end. And thank you all both so much for hosting tonight.
Yeah.
Of course. So, as Josh said, and as I said, our current exhibit is Joza Uprka. He is a Czech artist. Albin Polasek was a Czech artist. He was born in 1879. Uprka was born in 1861. So they were contemporaries. George and I have been talking about this. Unfortunately, we're still trying to make a connection between the two. We have some mutual friends, but we haven't found a direct connection between Joza and Albin yet. But here at the Polasek Museum, we are dedicated to preserving Albin's legacy. We have rotating exhibitions through the gallery space, which I'm sitting in now, and we are very lucky to have this one. So I have been studying Joza for probably almost 2 years. I've been the curator for a little over 2 years, but I still have not even scratched the surface on what George knows. So without further ado, if we can share the slides, I'm going to let George take it away and introduce Uprka and give us some background on him before we really start moving around the gallery and discussing his paintings.
Yeah, thank you, Emily, and thank you, Josh. Appreciate the opportunity to convey the story of Joza Uprka, and it's intertwined with a lot of artists, mostly in the Moravian Slovakia area, Slovanko, and that sort of deserves a little explanation. My background is I was born in Moravia, so that was one of the reasons why I became interested in Uprka. He was sort of a very well-known figure, well-respected, And he was also very much a transitional character in the respect that he was bringing new art forms to adapt to the locality where he was at. My background is I'm not an artist. I'm not even an art academic. I am an art collector. And through the collection, I've learned a lot about art and specifically about the individual Joza Uprka. And being born in the Czech lands, I was born in Moravia, as I mentioned. We came over as a family when there was a communist takeover of the country, and there was sort of a blockout of any kind of communication that we had. So it has a political story as well as a cultural, artistic story. And the episodes were in my life were, to kind of find my roots as I identify them, because as we came over as immigrants, we basically embraced the new culture. My parents always were told us to look forward, don't look backward, and you're in America, be an American, and that's what I did. And where I really got involved in art was in my undergraduate studies at Augustana College in Rock Island, Illinois. I had a pottery professor, Egon Weiner, who was from Vienna, and he also taught at the Art Institute in Chicago. So, and that sort of connects up, and I'll give Emily an opportunity to triangulate this or weave it together. But Albin Polasek was head of the sculpture department at Art Institute in Chicago. And not only did Egon teach there, but he also produced art that was displayed there, and he was recognized for some of the artwork throughout the Chicagoland area and in the United States, basically. But moving forward, the idea was that there was an appreciation of art, and the idea for me was let's look at heritage, and maybe there's something in there that we can find something attractive for art appreciation. And it went back to my parents and some of the things that they had hanging around the house. Although they told me to be an American, they did collect some stuff that came from the old country. Not much, because the communists didn't allow much to come through in the days until after 1989. So I, picked up on some of these calendars, and I saw these colorful calendars of what I later identified as being Joza Uprka. And I said, this is kind of cool. It doesn't even look like Czech stuff. It looks something that transcends just the, stick figures that, you might expect to come out of some artists or academic paintings. So I started to zero in on that. And then when I returned to the Czech Republic, I happened to go to an antique store and bought my first Uprka in 1990, and been collecting ever since. And it's been incremental. And sometimes I thought I bought an Uprka and I didn't. It was not a real one, what they'd call them fakes or forgeries. So I went through that experience. But I did assemble a network of people that really assisted me, and that's started really with an attorney that we had in a legal exchange program, and he introduced me to the granddaughter of Joza Uprka, Eva Novakova. She is a dentist, but she wasn't painful to me. She was actually quite nice. She gave me some other contact people. One was Dr. Peter Basha. And then from there, it expanded to people that started to appreciate Uprka art. And Uprka was very popular at the turn of the last century. And he sort of went into decline during the Nazi and communist times. And there were a number of reasons for that. But with the Republic being restored in '89, Czechs were starting to recognize some of the talents that they had, and there was this, I'd say, the rediscovery of artists, and Uprka was among several others that found a little bit more traction after the communist times. And so, as I explored learning more about Uprka and his family, it got to be more in depth. It was taking that deep dive. And so I'm starting with this first photograph here. Uprka was born in 1861. And that is about the time we were in the Civil War in the United States. And he was born in a very, very small town, which I visited. It's still small. It's Nezdeb. And the bigger town is Hrozna Lahota, which is, like a megapolis compared to Nezdeb. But when you look at these modest origins, you wonder how such a talent could emerge. And it became evident that he had really a will to succeed, and he did have a genius and a talent for art. And it was exploratory, especially in his early age, because his father did artwork, and I had actually visited the birth home of Joza Uprka in Nezdeb, and there were some paintings and artwork and decorative items that were in the home of Uprka, mostly decorative, but you could see that it was better than, refer to them as stick figures and sort of, primitive painting. So his talent was discovered and encouraged by some of the school teachers that he had. And eventually he got an opportunity to be recognized and made his way in the early 1880s to Prague, which is the capital city of the Czech Republic, or Czechia. Some people use the more current or more current description of the country. And there he studied under several artists. One was František Cermak, and it was in an academic style. And like many Czechs, he basically revolted or protested his professors, and then ended up going to Munich, where he then congregated with a number of other artists, mostly Czech. And one of them was very prominent, or became very prominent, Alfons Mucha, who is the art decorative sort of icon, if I can put it in those simple context, and others that were talented. And then eventually he ended up in Paris for about 9 months. It was less than a year. But there he hung around with some pretty interesting people. And one of whom was Auguste Rodin. And yeah, there he is. Many of you will recognize that instantaneously, Auguste Rodin. And there's something called the Grand Salon in Paris. It's basically an art show. And what you do is you try to get all of the, emerging, old, looking for that big break, in the art world. And it's very critical and very seriously judged or jured. And I believe in 1894, the chair or of the Salon was Rodin, not Rodin, but Renoir. And Renoir, there's some comparison to what Renoir's work is to Uprka's, but Rodin was there, and Rodin was, he was a rock star of the art world at that time. But in the 1894 Salon, Uprka was given an honorable mention of his artwork, and it was called I think we have something. Yeah, all right, we're taking a tour here. It was the gathering at Saint Anthony's pilgrimage, and then there was the Ride of the Kings. There were two basic major pieces of artwork. Now, Emily's taking us on a tour, which is actually, this is one of these pieces that does come from the Ride of the Kings. This was done around 1911, and its title is called Inczechvitas, or Vitas, the victor or the champion. And it was in the tests that they have for the horses and ridership, he was the winner. And the Ride of the Kings was basically a summertime or late spring event, which dealt with the concealment of a king on horseback. And to avoid, it dramatizes some past history to protect this royal individual from capture by the evil forces. So, and here's sort of the Uprka look, but you can see the impressionistic style where you have these broader strokes and the confluence of people, and how you throw an image in there. It looks like a blur. Looking at it at different angles, you can start to make it out, but it really requires eye and mind contact with it to really appreciate the subtleties and the distinctions of how you take multiple figures and then create it in one scene. And here you get a little taste of it, because that was really what Uprka was trying to do. Some of the academics who basically follow Uprka call it the color spot, that he was able to incorporate colors, and then you would look at them at different distances and different angles, and you get different impressions. Sometimes the painting, if you get it close, it doesn't make much sense, but as you move away from it, it really looks spectacular. And in fact, you can see the little child with the two ladies on the tree, where he puts them in there in a classic impressionistic style, breaking away from the academic tight strokes to the very, very broad strokes. But you can look at the colors, the blues, the reds, the greens, and this is sort of a softer blue in the background. So the shading, the shadowing, and what looks like maybe a non-innocuous sort of a line makes some sense when you, and I can use horse sense in this capacity, but as you look at it, you can see the image as almost being real. So that was a skill. And you look at the landscape, the trees, these border trees, which are sort of typical in Europe, where you have tree-lined streets. But remember, this is a small town, and this is probably Rosna Lahota, which may have had a 3,000 to 5,000 person population. So any comments there, Emily, or do you need?
So George, you mentioned St. Anthony's, and as you know, we have a couple of them in the gallery right now. They range in dates. I know St. Anthony's pilgrimage is still today a very popular thing that they still do. I actually was researching it when I was preparing for the exhibit, and it's still a trip that you can do. You can sign up for essentially a bus trip to do St. Anthony's pilgrimage. And I know, I'm going to try to say it right, the croye in these paintings is the traditional Czech costume essentially for these kind of festivals. But one of the versions of St. Anthony's that I find incredibly fascinating is one that I have not yet heard the full story of. You touched on it because you were part of recovering artwork that was stolen by Nazis.
Yes, yes. And this is one of the pieces. There were three. In 2011, we were able to finally conclude the recovery of this piece, which is a St. Anthony's pilgrimage. And back to Emily's point, this was, sometimes it's called a fair, but it was really where goods and refreshments, all kinds of different activities, plus a religious service to St. Anthony, who, according to my sources, was the one that could make the matches of these young men and women and their kroy, which is the traditional costumes. And the costumes and the way that they're depicted are not, they're distinctive. You have to have a pretty good eye, but you can tell what village a person is from just by the color of the scarf or the headpiece, or by the dress. And there are, if you wanted to kind of contemporize it, it's like if you were in a gang and you wore a hat in a cocked way, or you wore, the colors would distinguish you from another gang, so to speak. But these were distinctive pieces of apparel that the villagers basically wore to represent the communities that they were from. And sometimes it helped in matchmaking, breaking outside of your village and marrying a different, person. So it was very interesting. But this one, you can see the different points of color, just looking at the fields with the flowers. And then how do you get the feeling of this mass in back of these more specific ones when you look at the foreground and then look into the background? And then, you can look at the head on the right. All of a sudden, that head looks more distinctive at that angle than it did in a closer angle. All of a sudden, it feels almost real. And sometimes these colors and the artwork sort of blends in, but it is distinct. And that's really the fascination that I have as a collector of his art. Plus the colors, they're really vibrant. They are not shy. So you can, kind of get an appreciation. And this was based on a religious event. And sort of the way Uprka kind of designed or thought about his art is he did a lot of art related to work and what we sometimes call religious themes or piety, and then labor. You work hard, you play hard, and you have to respect how you got here. And it wasn't on your own, it was from that higher force, your providential forces. And here, if we can stop, this is sort of another one. The central one is really kind of interesting because I don't know if you can pick it up, but it was done in 1906. It's basically a study for a wedding scene. And it was also the subject of a postcard. Uprka was really quite popular, and many postcards were issued both pre-World War I and post-World War I. He's very popular. But this one has an impasto in it. It's kind of it came from the palette, and the knife really added to the zinger pieces in it. And you can just see it looks slopped together, but the colors, the shadings, and how he just gets that impression, and just the way he runs the lines through those strokes. I mean, it's to me really hard to do, to get that effect. And to keep something that looks real, but if you look at it, it's just pieces that are just sort of swiped together, and how they look, they are what they look like. It's the reality aspect of it. So that's really a great impression. Then we've got some up on the right, the Easter rattle. That's a small one, and that is also done around 1891, and one of the earlier ones, and it's where he used the darker colors. He was still using what I'd call them out of the Munich school, where everybody had earth tones, and maybe on the face, and you've got more of an academic, tighter look. But as you look at the robe or the coat of the child, it's got again that impressionistic feel or style, and the bare feet again indicative of an economy that basically kept a lot of the people barefoot and wearing this heavy coat in Easter time, which was spring and coming out of the winter, getting ready for the plantings. So that's I think another well done one. And then the Corpus Christi, that's another ceremony, and that's a young lady in a confirmation dress, and that's I think it's on a board, but
Yes.
and it's an earlier one. You can always knock on it. So those are interesting.
And I know you had, I don't want to make anyone sick by moving too fast. We had discussed the traditional costume.
Yes.
Excuse me. And the headscarves. And this is something that you see throughout his work. And this is actually one, it's kind of become the face of the exhibition. This has been used on a lot of our marketing materials. And this is similar with the palette knife. I mean, you can see, as you said, you can see the texture and the brush strokes. And just as we were unpacking these, I was aware, I could tell from the pictures just the thick layers of paint, and that it was applied with a palette knife. So we were very carefully watching these as we were unpacking them to make sure that none of it chipped off, to make sure that none of it was disturbed. And you don't, as you said, when you look from far away, you can kind of see it, you notice it, but as you get closer, you realize how detailed and how much care was put into each one of those marks.
Yeah, it wasn't just thrown against a wall. And if you look at that, and maybe I'm being a little bit haughty here, but she's got a smile that looks a little bit like the Mona Lisa.
Mm-hmm.
So, and what he did, as well as Alphonse Mucha, he would take these very simple characters. Women. I'm not trying to judge, but they weren't as attractive as they in person as they would be on the art board. And Mucha was one that really enhanced, and really accentuated the very positive features of human bodies and human body form. And I'm not saying that flippantly, because we've got these photographs when Auguste Rodin visited the community, and we saw some of these individuals, and they were pretty modest. So it was like a time machine going back to 1902. But you can see the sort of the impasto, and it almost looks like, he, and I'm not sure how he did that. It looks like some of it, he took a toothpaste tube and, basically kind of accentuated some of those lines in the laces and in the cloths that the ladies would wear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, some of it definitely. And even I'm going to make a little membership push right now.
Okay.
March 29th is our member reception. George will be here if you want to meet him in person. So if you would like to become a Polasek member, please do it. It gets you access to the special member reception. If you don't want to become a member, please still come visit the exhibition before it closes April 17th. But if you become a member, as I said, you get to meet George, you'll get to see these things close up, and you'll get to talk to him about them. We will also, as a special treat for that evening, have traditional Czech costumes from Helene, who is a collector. She lives in Central Florida. She will be bringing some of her pieces in to be on display really for that evening. So if you'd like to see the traditional costume from the same time frame next to these incredible paintings, that is the time to do it.
Yeah, good plug, good commercial.
And we also talked a little bit about the working woman and just, I mean, that was a way of life for them. It still is. But something I noticed through my research with Uprka, the majority of his work is oil. There are a few watercolors. This is one of the few, obviously, in your collection that I've come across. But just in general, is watercolor something that he worked with very often?
He did. He worked with it. He was pretty prolific. We have calculated, and this isn't me, but this is Peter Basha, that he did about 900 oils. These include complete or studies, and about 600 watercolors. So there's a body of work somewhere in the range of 1,500 total. So they're out there. Some were destroyed, some were lost, so we don't know. And in my collection, I've got 58 oils and about 22 watercolors, and then some mixed media and some charcoals, and it's maybe a total of about 150 pieces of Uprka work, and etchings too. And I think you have some too. And if you want to go to the Brothers of the Holy Cross, that one painting, I just wanted to kind of use this as a contrast.
Of course.
This is an early Uprka, and he did this in 1887, and it was on a commission basis of Brother Zwolski, who was, they had a monastery near the Charles Bridge in Prague. And you can look at it, it looks almost like a Rembrandt. I mean, if you look at it, but it's one of the earlier ones, and he was very tight in the painting. And then, of course, and this was probably done when he was trained in Munich, in the Munich school. But this has more of a actual sort of more realistic look that you would see in, with the academic painters, like one of his instructors, Professor Chermak. And you could tell that he had technical skills that were very good and improved over time, because he was just maybe in his mid-20s when he painted this. So that's a really good example to contrast what he did after he went to Paris.
And
so what happened in Paris? It didn't stay there. It broke out.
And that's something that you see throughout this exhibit and throughout your collection. And I know it's prevalent with a lot of artists that I've studied. They go to these renowned art schools. They learn a very traditional technique of painting, sculpture, all of it. And then they strike out on their own, and they really make it their own, and they find their own niche style. And like Uprka, this was a time when, like you said, French Impressionism was really taking the world by storm. So it wasn't just in France, it was making its way around the world, and it was pushing all of these more traditional artists who worked with realism and photorealism towards abstraction. And another one, this is, I don't know, George, do you have a favorite piece in this exhibit?
Yeah, I think I go back to the St. Anthony's paintings just because of their composition. Some people might consider them boring in view of what he does, but
Mm.
the St. Anthony's, and it's hard, when you say who's your favorite child, who's your favorite pet, if you've got multiple children, pets, or grandkids, or whatever. So that makes it a little bit more challenging. But the one over here next to the woman in the scarf, there's a greengrocer there. I kind of like that in sort of
Yeah.
its subdued way. Uh, the cherry picker, and then can you bring up the slides? I want to just do a little comparison here. So,
Of course.
there was a slide with Bobby Leto.
Oh yeah,
Maybe Josh has got them. Yeah, that one. And that's an interesting one. That was done in 27. And there was a Klimt. Could you throw the PowerPoint piece on there?
There we go.
But it's just kind of interesting where you have the styles, and you can kind of get the feel where you had same subject matter, female, and a good-looking female, and then the clothing, and then sort of the posing, and one's in the field and one's in a boudoir. So you get a sort of a it's transcendental in a way, and it's a contrast, but it's also complementary, or you can compare the two. All right, what other slides did we miss here? I wanted to kind of catch them.
Hey, Catherine, you can go through.
Yeah, that's probably the one that would have been in the Grand Salon, or one like it in in 94 rather. But that's in the Moravian Gallery in Brno, and that's a huge painting. And it is remarkable in the sense that you've got about 50 to 80 people, in there, and how you distinguish them, and the different layers as you distance yourself back to the end of the street. But this shows so much energy and activity, and movement, and the colors, and who's doing what. But that, I think, is if you're in the Czech Republic, you go to Brno, you got to see this thing, because it's quite impressive. Next, do you have another one in there, Emily? Yeah, that's the potato picker. Again, what it really is remarkable is the intergenerational, and also the male-female support in these communities. And everybody had a job. You take care of kids, you go and do agricultural work, you take care of the livestock. And one of the things, it's in the article in the monograph that we produced, is that this was really an homage to the times past, because at the time when Emily had the sort of the age of Uprka, he was born at the time of Abraham Lincoln and died under Franklin Roosevelt. And if you can think, and I had another slide which showed the development of products and inventions. You moved really from horse and buggy, or cart and foot, to basically rocket ships. There was look at this list of presidents to kind of put the time frame into perspective. So a couple of world wars, the Franco-Prussian War, there was a lot of colonization going on, and then independence movements throughout Asia and Africa. So it's a busy time. We have, this is a nice painting as well. It's got the color with a dark background, and it's got the black in it. You sometimes see black, but not a lot. And then the colorful greens and reds, and just the way the ladies are looking, and you think they're looking for husbands, maybe. A little disappointment there that they haven't found somebody, and they're still with each other and not with a suitor. So it's interesting, and he captures these. I've called this one the eyes on the prize, trying to find the prize. So,
All right.
yeah.
We talked
Anybody
about
else
that
that we missed?
one.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was the Schnabel family. They sold that to us. Basha and I. Basha was the primary guy. He worked at the National Gallery, and I worked through the New York banking department on their Holocaust claims division, and they were very cooperative. So it was rewarding. And then what I'm working on right now is helping one of the relatives in Moravia, Jan Benedict. He's a great grandson of Joza Uprka, and he's putting together a monograph of Rodin's visit in Moravia. This was Auguste Rodin, where Rodin visits this sleepy little village, and he's kind of curious. Where is this place? It's like maybe somewhere Deliverance movie, somewhere in the backwaters of Appalachia, and he found this place, and he found it charming, mostly because it was a contrast, because there were people who dressed like they were citified and others that looked like they were hayseeds. And Uprka was able to develop a representation of these folks, which is now lasting basically for way longer than his lifespan.
So it looks like we might have a couple of questions. I don't know, Josh, do we have time for a question or two?
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, we could probably get to these real quick. And just a couple questions here. We had a lot of folks who actually were from the area. I encourage you to check out that from
Winter Park.
No,
from Moravia.
Yeah, so we had someone from Mucha.
Mucha, yeah.
Mucha.
You know what that means, Josh? It means fly. It's a fly.
Oh,
a bug.
Wow, I did not know that. But and then it's also Jan from the audience was born in. So this one is one I'm going to absolutely butcher. I am sorry. I'll leave it actually, George, if you want to try to pronounce.
Nesdev.
Yeah.
Nesdu.
So actually, Jan lived there for 29 years, which is in the same area as well as her grandparents. So it might have been around the same time, which is really fascinating. Thank you all. Thank you for sharing your stories in the chat there. That's
send your stories, and contact Emily, and if she's got something that I can help with, I will. But Emily should be the gatekeeper there.
Absolutely,
We'll make you a member.
I know we're running over, so if you guys do have questions that we probably won't get to, my email is curator@polasek.org, POLASEK. I'm on our website. You guys can email me your questions, and I'll try to answer them. And I'm sure George wouldn't mind helping me answer them if I'm unable.
No, not at all.
Yeah, if you are interested in this, in the art that we talked about today, or the history, or just really want to discuss, I think it would be a fascinating thing to share with each other, and I think that'd be great. So I'm going to throw this up onto the screen as well. Thank you both so much for taking time out of your evening to present with us. I found it absolutely fascinating. The art is beautiful. I'm definitely gonna have to make a trip down to the museum, because I haven't had the chance to see this exhibit yet. So I would definitely love to come down there. We'll have to, well, maybe we can find some time. But that would be great. Thank you both so much this evening. Thank you everyone in the audience for attending. like we mentioned, if we didn't get to your questions today, please send those to that email address I shared, curator@polasek.org. I'll throw it up on the screen while we leave here. But thank you both again for coming.
Curator
And
misspelled.
I'm sorry.
Oh,
Curator
Curator.
Oh, sorry, I am typing it out as I'm trying to talk.
That's
So
okay.
here. I think I actually spelled it better on the other side.
Yeah.
There we go.
So for those in the YouTube, don't send it to that one. Send it to this one that I am updating right now. But you can also check out polasek.org, as I shared earlier, and you can find that contact information there. Thank you both so much for coming, and thank you all the audience for attending today. I loved hearing all this information today.
And I'm just going to put a little plug in there because we were at University of Illinois at Spurlock Museum. We got canceled at the embassy in Washington, D.C., but we're planning to have a Washington, D.C. exhibit as well, and then head back to the frozen tundra of Illinois.
Hopefully you can catch a little bit of the warmth that we're having here today.
Yeah, we'll catch it. We'll eventually get it, and you'll get it. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks again for everyone, and I appreciate you all coming, and I hope you all have a fantastic evening today.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Of course. Thank you so much, George. Have a great night, everyone.
Okay.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe to our YouTube channel to be the first to find out when we have new fun and informative videos for you. Orange County Library System is your place to learn, grow, connect.